Hey listener, welcome to 1000 Routes. I'm your host, Nick Bennett. In each episode, we explore the uncommon paths of solopreneurs who have bet on themselves and the reality of what it takes to build a business that serves your life. Enjoy the episode.
Seth Waite. I am a buyer psychologist, which means that I help food and beverage companies in particular understand their customers and what makes them tick.
Seth, you've been in the game as an entrepreneur for a long time, and you've seen a lot of companies and businesses through acquisitions and mergers and just other exits of all different kinds. I want to back the clock way up to like when you decided you were going to do what feels crazy at the time, but being on this side of the equation, you know, it's actually not that crazy. It's like to become an entrepreneur and start your own business. What was the thinking? What was the motivation to abandon corporate life way back when?
It happened pretty early for me. So it wasn't like one of those midlife crises. I was in my mid-20s at the time. Everybody told me it was a terrible idea. And I was going to regret it and all the things. And I actually was in law school at the time. So like I was going down a very like linear path, go to school, get a profession, put a Esquire behind my name and, you know, bill clients and work 1 million hours for the rest of my life. Like that was the path I was going down. And honestly, I think I could have been a really great lawyer. But I also think it would have destroyed me.
You live a chiller life now, for sure.
For sure. A lot less contention. And that was kind of where it was for me. But at the end of my first year, I left law school and, you know, dean and everyone was like, you're going to regret it and all this stuff. And I went into an agency because I was like, I want to get as much exposure as possible and have this experience. And I was living in Arkansas at the time, not where I'm from. I'm originally from Las Vegas. But I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas, the headquarters and home of Walmart, Sam's Club, Tyson Chicken, like all these huge brands. And it's also a population that's like 500,000. So you have the biggest company in the world located in one of the smallest metros like ever.
There's a tax advantage or something.
There's a lot of advantages there. I mean, like it's the only place in the world where you're walking down like the city's like square, you know, at the heart of the city. And you like look over and you're getting an ice cream cone for the Walmart's 5 and dime. And standing next to you is the global CEO of Walmart. You know, like the dude makes $19,000 an hour. And he's just standing there and like, pull over and like licking an ice cream cone, talking to his wife. Nobody's bothering him. Every person in this town knows who he is. And it's just like a super chill.
You get to be a regular dude.
Yeah, really cool environment. So I started doing digital marketing and content strategy for Walmart and Sam's Club in the grocery side of the business. And I was instantly then working with all these huge makeup brands, right? Like it's the Crafts and the Kellogg's, and you've got Walmart on the other side. And I'm like responsible for building out these content strategies because they're like, you're young and you probably know how to use the internet. So let's do this, right? And I'm like literally a content strategist. And so I'm working through all this stuff. And in the process of doing this, I keep getting assigned products that I have no business like getting connected with. So at one point, I'm responsible for Sam's Club's grocery content. And it's like, how do you use 20 pounds of chicken? And I'm like, I don't even have a membership here. Like, I don't know, you know, I don't even cook at the time. There was one of those deals where I was constantly being asked to market and sell things that I had no personal understanding for. And then my next category after grocery was mother baby. So
perfect. Right of your ass.
Diapers, you know, again, I was like, I have no context for this. There has to be a science to this. Like that's what kept coming back is like, there has to be a science to how this works. That's more than just do good marketing, right? Like there's got to be a process. So that's when it like started clicking in my brain, which is like, it's kind of the classic adage of like, whoever's closest to the customer wins. That's when I realized like, I have got to figure out how to be very customer centric. And when I started doing that, it created a ton of success, like outsized success for a 24, 25-year-old. And everybody in the agency started noticing. I got recruited to go to an in-house job. In the process of doing that, in like 4 months, I took this young brand from $30,000 a month to about $1.5 million per month in a 4.5, 5 month period. And it was like kind of the same thing. Let's go figure out who the customer is so we can talk to them and create real value. And at this point, I'm like in a sweet spot because I'm getting to play with the house's money, right? Like I'm developing all my theories and processes and like really this kind of like science behind how this works. And I get to go in and knock on the CEO's door and say, I need another $100,000 like to go hit these ads, right? And or to do email marketing or pick a thing, but it's working. So like the wallet just opens up and I'm going through this process. And as I go through this, like next year, I just have this realization of I am making a lot of people a lot of money and they're not even good people. I don't even like them. Like they treat their employees like crap, like it was one of those situations where I just realized like I need them. I've needed them, but I don't need them like as a permanent fixture in my life. And so at that point, I just thought, I'm going to go out on my own and bring some people that have been on this journey with me. We're going to go start something. And I did. And my wife, like bless her, basically was not like, hey, we're nuts one more time, you're crazy. And instead was like, okay, if this is what you want to do. And that's what we did. So I started a e-commerce agency for direct-to-consumer brands. And we started just basically recreating those kind of results, like massive increases in sales. And within the first year, another agency reached out and were like, hey, we don't have this particular capability. Can we acquire you? So
you got acquired in a year, less than a year?
Yeah. So, because what happened was I had a relationship with one of those owners from the previous agency, and we just kept showing up at all the same pitches. And what was happening was they were pitching a whole set of services that didn't include ours. And there was the light bulb moment for them of like, duh, like if we had this capability, it would change our ability to kind of become agency of record, to win it all, rather than constantly argue about like individual budgets and individual parts and pieces. So it was awesome. Like it was this great opportunity. And my journey has been anything but linear since. So I've sold the company. In the process of doing that, me and the other two partners that acquired our business, they came in and were like, well, let's go do this. Like, let's go scale and sell. So I was the head of growth and strategy for the next 5 years at that business that purchased my company. And we then sold at the end of that. And we went from small agency, with like 15 people to 240-ish people, massive growth. We grew 95% year over year for 5 years straight. So we were basically doubling. And in the beginning, it was really exciting. And at the end of this ride, it was, oh, geez.
It's like exhausting. Yeah.
Well, because you have this big moment. You're like, we just did $8 million this year. Like it was crazy, because last year we did 4. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, we have to do 16 next year. And, we got to go. And at the time, our model was not like, it wasn't retention based. It wasn't like annual contracts. We were selling like projects. So it wasn't just like, I got to go find another 8 million to hit the $16 million mark. It was, I've got to find an entire 16 million next year. But we went through that process, and along the path, built a great business by having really good team members and just awesome people, worked with some amazing clients, and then sold the company to a private equity at the end of that. So had a lot of fun there and learned so much. I don't know that I could ever do that again. Like, I don't know that I could physically and emotionally just like grind at that level. It was like 90-hour weeks for 6 years.
How big was the business when you sold it though? So it was 200 employees at 8 million, 16 million?
We were at 24 million.
Wow.
So yeah. And when I got there, when our initial like little, because our acquisition was tiny in the beginning, because there was only about 15 people when they bought us. So it was like a small deal. Most of it was equity, which is part of why I was like, let's go sell this thing. And so
nice.
Part of that, we went from, that like $2 million mark to 24 million in that 5-year period.
Wow. So the first year, what magic took place in that first year that it was just, you showed up in the pitches, you were in the same line of business, and you filled a operational and services gap that this other person didn't have. But to get to scale a business to 15 people in 1 year is also rapid. So how big was that business when you said you were doing 2 million in that first year?
Yeah. So
wow.
In the beginning, I'd love to say that it was like clean and perfect, and the strategy was like, wonderfully aligned.
No, you were ripping. To do that in 12 months.
Yeah. The reality is it was just pure effort. And I mean, it was one of those deals where I always say, if you would have called us and asked us to my copy machine's broke, I would have been like, cool, we'll be over in a minute, we'll figure it out,
we'll do anything.
You got a credit card? Does it work? And so that first year was just so much of just the effort. And part of it was from a sales standpoint, I got really good at selling what people wanted. And that was really the start of that process, was like that whole scheme. The issue was it was pretty bespoke. It was custom fit. The reason why you were so happy is because we gave you precisely what you wanted it in the exact way you wanted. And it was going to be different than what I sold 30 minutes later on the next call. So we were just doing all this individual work, and we had a pretty wide spread of capabilities. And a huge part of it was almost all of our early hires were all former founders. So we pursued on purpose solopreneurs and people that had founded companies, because the perspective was just so different. It was like, I get what we're trying to do, and I know what it means to service a customer and ensure that all those things are happening, and I don't have to be managed. So we would just meet as many founders as possible. And in the process, I would always kind of leave the statement at the end, which is hey, if for some reason this doesn't work out, I want to be the first person that you call. And it was nice because for lots of people, they never called me, and that was awesome. Their business took off. But for the people where it's hey, I'm having questions, it was a natural phone call to say, hey, you've got a job. You have an opportunity, take the risk, go do this heavy thing. You've got a place, and we're going to be super passionate to have somebody like you in the business. So all the way up until we sold year 6, 35% of our team were former founders. So we were just dense in that space as part of the deal.
You see most people go for domain expertise or whatever sort of vertical expertise that they have. And you were I need someone with ambition, like a founder.
Yeah.
They could learn. I think it's I could teach them
whatever
the skill is. I can't give you the ambition and the motivation.
Yeah. To solve really complex problems. And I think especially in the early part, because the problems were so inconsistent that we were solving, because our positioning was soft, it was like we didn't have an industry specifically. Like, again, you could kind of come in from any direction and we would find a way to service your business. Because of that, we had to have massive flexibility. Like we had to have a team that was like, I will run through this wall and ensure that we deliver. And what happened then over the years is they kept coming back and being like, there's a better way to do this. And vice versa. And eventually we got to a really productized service model. And as we positioned better and more clearly, and as we improved our process, naturally then our projects started getting bigger. And as they got bigger, we needed less of them to grow. Because now we went from cool average project is the $30,000 to $40,000 project, and we have a whole lot of those, to average project is $600,000 to $800,000, or it's a 3-year multi-million-dollar project. So that really shifted over really a 3 to 4 year period. And we went from, we help everybody, to we build custom technology solutions for retailers and their supply chain. And it was, in particular, it was for employees. So like, if you see an employee at Walmart walking around with a phone or a tablet, like, we built that tech. That was kind of the mode we got into. Suddenly, like, we're building technology for CFOs and financial departments and all over the place in the retail. Like, we built curbside for some of the biggest grocery chains in the country pre-COVID, before everybody needed it. So we started doing really interesting work. We started being known for something. Our brand started meaning something. And all the stars kind of aligned because we did some pretty difficult positioning work and shed a lot of tears in the process.
So you sell this business, and like, context is important. Like, this is 2015.
This is 2019.
And you sell down around in 2019. So like throughout this entire process. Yeah. And then you go and start a moving and storage company. How did that happen?
I always go back to my past is not linear.
I just like, how do you go from building this technology and this massive agency to like, let's get into the moving and storage of physical goods?
Yeah. Well, the through line has always been like customer problems. Like, that's the thing that just like makes me so passionate and interested. And we had a client when we were the technology company that was the largest moving company in the country, full service. So they owned multiple brands and all these kind of things. And I would go and talk to their board, which was an 18-person board, and it was complicated, and it was as corporate as you could get, right? Like wood panel walls and all this stuff and all the things. So I would go talk to them about where's the market, where's technology, what's disruption look like? And I had something called the Darwin Index that I would talk about, which is, it was a kind of a statistical research process of analyzing what's the current pace of change in your industry. Like, can I measure the pace of evolution happening currently in moving and storage? Like, retail operates on much shorter timelines than a lot of other industries. They have a complete rotation, like an evolution, historically on a 15 to 20 year timeline. Like, major incumbents switch places, like major shifts happen, where like moving and storage is like, is it a 50-year timeline?
A lifetime, like someone's entire lifetime. Basically.
Yeah. What's happened though is everything has gotten shorter. Every industry has started to get shorter and compact. And so I was doing all this consulting work for them and trying to help them really architect their future. And in the process, I had some pretty straightforward conversations with the board and said, look, your problem is where the industry is going and what the customer wants and where you are, they don't work. Like you don't have, it's not just that you don't have the technology, you don't have the people that have the perspective to go do this work. And so when we were in the process of selling the technology firm, they came to me and literally were like, would you build the future of this business if we invested in it? It's basically like having a VC come and say, we'd like to give you money to go build this thing. And so that's basically what happened. They invested. I brought in a bunch of AI experts, which at the time, like now AI feels
not really a thing.
Yeah, AI feels so easy right now. Like anyone, like at any one time, I have like 3 or 4 different AI platforms that I'm using. Back then, I had to have like PhD mathematicians who were doing this work.
This is like 2019, 2020. Yeah. Like it wasn't even like that long.
There was
ago.
no infrastructure. Like you're building everything from scratch. And we were doing computer vision. So we were doing like object identification. So I knew from a customer standpoint that if I could make the experience, which normally took 8 to 10 days to get a quote from a movie company, if I could turn that into 30 minutes, 5 minutes, I'd win. Like we would have a ton of success. And so the way that we did it initially was we built a mobile application where the AI model was on the device, which is also crazy. And in the process, it could ID all the stuff in your house and build an inventory, which gave you a quote. So it was this super cutting edge technology. It was stupid complicated and really hard, but we built this entire flow. What we come to find out, and this is normal for most, whether you're a solo company or not, when you start with a solution, you have problems. And we started with a solution, which was, we've got this really interesting technology. We actually came to find out about like 9 months in that we could use AI to get to a quote and we didn't need to see the house. We didn't need any inventory. And you're like, how's that possible? And it's like, well, we had hundreds of thousands of moves. So we had partnered with some interesting data providers, and we knew that if you could tell us how many bathrooms you had, floors you had, and bedrooms, we could, and your zip code, it was like these 4 items, we could give you a quote that we could guarantee with just that information. Now, every once in a while, we're going to get screwed because Nick happens to have a entire, Planet Fitness in his basement or whatever, like, so you would have these exceptions, but we had AI built almost like an insurance module as well, where it's like, look, we're going to save some money on these moves to cover these other moves. And we're going to dynamically price in a way that allows us to cover for those components. So we didn't even need the solution that was really interesting and cool. It became useful for us later operationally, but it wasn't actually essential for the core customer experience. And so we went from our initial launch in 4 cities. And in the beginning, we had 7 trucks that we were working with and all the stuff, small. And by the time we were done, which was 21 months later, we were in 120 cities. And we had almost 7,000 trucks and drivers in our system. So it exploded. And a huge part of it was just easy. Like moving is so hard.
It sucks.
It sucks.
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah. And everyone always acts like moving is the end of your journey. Like I pack and I do this stuff. And I'm like, no, it's like right smack dab in the middle. Like, it's going to suck for the next couple months after the move too. Like, because relocation is what's happening. You're picking up your life and going somewhere else, and getting your stuff there is like a really small part of it, and important, but really small part. So we tried to simplify the entire experience, and that really helped us move and expand. COVID happened in the middle of it. I thought I had one of those scary founder moments where I was like, this is it. Like, who's going to move? We can't even go to the store, Like we're screwed.
Turns out everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I thought for sure, I mean, I had like some sleepless nights, and I just remember like looking at my wife, Natalie, and like just having all these conversations and getting emotional. Cause I'm like, these people have trusted me. I had 60 people that worked in like the backside of our business. I've gone and recruited all these people and found all these founders and all these people and PhDs that I'd pulled away from like academics, like from like universities and all kinds of things. And I'm just thinking like, I'm going to have to call these people and give them terribly devastating news. And I can't fix that. I don't know how to fix that for them, which was my concern, was like, you know, they trusted me and I'm letting them down. What ended up happening is that summer, we actually had the biggest year. We like 4X'd our initial forecast for the year before COVID. We actually 4X'd it on the year, because what ended up happening is everybody moved during COVID.
Yeah.
And so you could not have predicted that, but
So a roller coaster.
it was a roller coaster. And so we come out of 2020, we've had this massive year. We were moving entire college campuses. So like when COVID hit, people don't think about it, but like college students in a lot of cases were told, you can't go back to your dorm, just go home. And so at one point we were clearing out 5,000 or 6,000 dorm rooms a week. And we would go in, ignore the contraband, and there was some stuff.
Whatever you're into.
Box everything up, take it to warehouses and store it, and then eventually ship it to every single college student from the campus. So we did that for almost 20,000 students. So it's just wild. And at the end of that year, the company that had invested in us was like, crap, we were going to go raise another round. And basically they're like, we will not be able to, if you go raise this round, your valuation will be so high that we won't be able to afford to buy you later. And so they leveraged their board status and a couple of preferred equity elements. And they basically said, we're going to buy you now.
Dang.
So they acquired us at the end of 2020, and January 2021, I became the chief experience officer in their organization and was responsible for integration.
Unbelievable, man. What a wild ride.
Yeah.
But you weren't even there. You weren't there all that long until you decided it was time to start something else.
Yeah, because I really hate corporate life. Like, oh man, like it was the long year. And there's some great people, but it was such a long year because there just aren't that many people built like entrepreneurs. Like, and I have a really low tolerance for dealing with that, I think. And so on December 31st, my contract ended and I walked out with my stuff. So, finished my year, did everything I was, said I was going to do. And then I was like, I'm going to go do another thing. So left the CTO at the time that had done Handled with me, which was the moving company, and then did the integration. We went out and started an AI company. We, in the process, figured out some crazy technology, got some patents, figured out how to authenticate luxury goods with a mobile device. Love AI and the intersection of mobile. Like, there's still not enough people doing anything about that. We have a very long conversation around, like, AI's maybe greatest tool is the ability to gather data that only AI could gather, because it can create user experiences that improve that model. So like, I think we'll see a massive flurry of new capabilities with AI over the next couple of years. If people will figure out, like, because I have AI on my phone and it's attached to video and audio and all these other things, I can give AI feeds of data and information that I could never before. because in the past it was complicated and tedious and all these other things. So we built that company, got an investor. The investor really liked what we were doing. We saw a much bigger opportunity than the investor wanted to go build some like very commercial applications early around authenticating Pokemon cards.
Okay. Hey, everything needs to be authenticated, so why not
They're
that?
expensive.
Yeah.
And we were much more interested in pursuing the technology from like this has ridiculously large implications. Like we were using sensors on your device to create an entirely new data set. If you think about most AI today, it really is using visual data, images. It's using audio data, and it's using text primarily. Everything's getting translated into text for the most part. Well, you're like, AI also can understand sensors, information, and data. Like what happens when you start adding new senses. So if in our world where we always talk about like you've got 5 senses and there's this magical 6th sense, it's like we were like, there's some 6th sense opportunities out here. AI can compute all these other capabilities. Like most flagship phones now have ultra wideband sensors that can kind of X-ray things. Like the tech is ridiculous, but nobody's using it. So had a major disagreement with the investor. Good human, just wasn't a situation I could stay in. I was just like, hey, we're not going down the same path. So I sold my equity to the investor and he took the technology and kind of ran with it because I just got to the point where I realized my freedom is far more valuable than whatever opportunity. And I'd never had a shortage of finding what's next. So,
yeah. And that led you to where you are now with Schaefer. So how did you get linked up with Sydney?
So the cool part is Sydney and I have worked together for almost 10 years. So wherever I go, I like to always connect with and bring people. And like, why recreate the wheel? So Sydney and I started working together at the technology firm back in like 2016. And we were working together on the marketing side and the strategy side. So we realized quickly we really like working together. And there was a lot of like yin and yang components. Like we both saw the world through these, strategic perspectives, but Sydney's ability to make them reality was super powerful. And my superpower was like finding open doors. Like there's a really unique thing here and I'm going to go figure out how to make it happen. So we kind of had that yin yang component. And through the years, as she went to Zappos and like had other experiences, I knew in the back of her mind, she always wanted to have like an agency or services business. So when I created the moving company, I was like, look, I don't actually want to create a marketing team, but we're going to need it because we have to grow super fast. So I reached out to Sydney and was like, hey, if you wanted to start that agency, I would love to sign a multi-year contract with you and like give you the flexibility to go invest and build this thing. And you could be my marketing agency. So she started Schaefer. I became her first client. She did killer work. We grew from, 4 to 121 cities. And at the end of all this stuff, we kind of were like catching up. And she was like, do you want to get the band back together? Because that was fun. Like, what if we did this more? And so I joined and kind of like, came in as a partner then with Sydney. And we've just been having a blast ever since.
Was Schaefer wasn't always focused on food and beverage like retail like it is now? How did you get? I see the through line already, like based on everything you're sharing. Like I kind of see there's all the scaffolding is being set up for this, but how did you guys make that pivot?
So Sydney had just an absolutely killer performance marketing firm. So like great case studies and all these great results. And the challenge we had was it's the same one that I've always had, which is like, I have so many interests and the ability to kind of like connect to all these different things, but we had to start tightening up our offer. Like we had to start selling in a way that was easier, made more sense, execution created. We didn't have to have a heroic effort every time to get a great case study. We could use our experience to create those awesome case studies. So in the process, we kept coming back to let's tighten up our focus and let's keep pushing on who our, ideal client is. And as we were doing this kind of positioning work, we looked at our current client base and we're like, 60 to 70% of our clients are food and beverage CPG brands. Like we already like working with them. That's already a majority of our customer base. Why don't we double down here? Because we go deep here and we've done a bunch of work in the space and we really enjoy these consumer brands and the problems that they have. So that's when we talked more about like the researching the strategy work that we do as a way to kind of hook them in on what's really different. We let a couple clients go, that one that could fit. And then we just doubled down on food and beverage. And it's been awesome. Like focus has made all the difference.
And it's just the two, you have a contractor or an employee now?
We have an employee, John. John and I have worked together for 14 years. Every place career-wise that I have been, John is there. So there's a theme there. But
yeah, you got to keep the good people close. I get it. I know a lot of people that bring their people with them when they go off and start and do new things. Like, why start over, right?
So John and I have always been kind of this duo. It allows us to not have to speak to communicate, right? Like there's this moment whenever something comes up where we're like, we can pull from the same bank of experiences and go, this reminds me of when this happened and we did X, Y, and Z. So John's on the team. And then we use a couple contractors on the design side to help us really polish the process and do that work, which has been great. But yeah, we're lean. We like it that way. It also allows us to kind of come in and say, look, we're not going to go throw a army of juniors at you and you're going to hope that, it's a good job. Instead, it's like what you see is what you get. Senior level people that have worked with brands exactly like yours 100 times.
I think there's this like rise of the micro agency that's happening right now. And you have definitely seen this with your previous agency up to 200 employees. It's like the person who sells you is not the person who services the account. And the person who services the account, you're going to get handed off. Sometimes that person quits or gets promoted or whatever, and you get shuffled around. And it's not the best experience for the client in the world. No matter how hard you try, the delivery side of the business is just a grind. This is a total slog. And I've experienced this in past agency businesses myself, like on the inside as a account manager. In this micro agency business model where the person who sells you is the person who services the account, and we have a team of great people, small, lean team of great people that have been doing this with us for a very long time, is like an extremely compelling model for like us as founders, but also for clients, because they know what you said. It's like what you see is what you get. Like, the person, the thinking, you know the results that we're capable of getting people. It takes the risk out of it, out of the entire equation. I feel like we're going to see the massive agency model start to dismantle, because when we talk to people too, they want to do anything to stop themselves from becoming a full-blown agency.
Yeah. And the best way to do that, I think, is continuing to tighten your position. Like the natural, like how you become this big bloated agency is you just keep saying yes. And your position keeps getting diluted and diluted and diluted, along with your margins, along with your expertise and your specialization. Like my take is, by staying hyper specialized, it gives you the ability to just keep figuring out, how do I provide more value for my customer and more value for us? Like our margins should naturally expand as we provide more value to you. And moving it under the price of these bigger agencies who are coming in and having to layer in all their junior and mid-level staff who are going to take 3 times longer to do the work as part of the process.
I totally agree with you, 100%. There's a natural ceiling that I think, or maybe this is just a limiting belief, but there's a natural ceiling that people feel like they hit where like, all right, at some point, you and Sydney and John are like, we can't do more work.
Yeah.
We can maybe charge a little bit more, but like we're kind of reaching the limits of where we think this thing could be. And the question I pose to all my clients and a lot of people is like, well, when is enough enough? Like how, because we don't really want to layer in more people, whether they're junior or not. It's like, as the org chart expands, it creates problems for the business, no matter which way you slice it. How do you see the growth of Schaefer and like the trajectory that it's on? How do you plan to solve for that?
What I'll say is that it has changed and evolved. I mean, my history has always been grow as quickly and as aggressively as possible until you are about to break. As a business, as a person, like just all the way down the list, right? Like, and what I found is like every time you double headcount, it is a brand new company. Like, and that's the other thing people don't realize. Like, even from 5 to 10, it's like, okay, your org chart, you just destroyed it. Like, everybody's jobs have shifted, everybody's things, your positioning starts to adjust. So, like, that headcount growth is massive in terms of its impact to your daily life. So, at first, I showed up to Schaefer and was like, all right, Sydney,
to the moon.
Like, you know who I am, like, and I know who you are, like, let's go do this. And then we took a pause and we're just thought, like, how much is enough? And how do we really focus on just doing our very best work? Like, work we enjoy. And what's been interesting is as we've done that and we've hyper specialized, we've also realized where we could naturally expand if we wanted to, that felt fairly effortless because it wasn't us stretching. It wasn't a situation of like, oh, geez, now, for us to grow, we've got to add new capabilities. And instead, it's more like for us to grow, we're going to go get a specialist. We know what that specialist looks like. We know what their job is. Like, we know the work they're going to do because we've created this really tight system for how to get results. And so we're not coming in and asking them to like, hey, you got to come figure this out. We're saying, hey, there's a system in place. We actually have a lot of software that we built as well. So we have something called Schaefer OS, super creative, but like, it's literally a platform that I've gone in and built that has hard coded like our entire workflow and allows us to do really good work in a super organized way that allows us to scale. So like our 3 people are doing the work and the revenue, honestly, of a 10 to 15 person agency. So for me, that's always the conversation, which is I want to know what my net profit or income numbers are per head count. And like my goal is always to figure out ways to increase that number more than anything else. Revenue is flashy and I've pursued it most of my life, but that's where the shift has come. It's like, I'm actually thinking more about what does net income look like and how do we expand that without doing that at the expense of the customer.
In your life.
Yeah, agree. Right. And so that's been the key part is like, let me remove all the stuff that was fluff. So much of agency life, there is a lot of performance and showmanship. And when you break down like where you truly provide value, it's a much tighter deliverable than I think we let it be oftentimes. So that's been a big part of the fools.
The traditional agency model runs like 20% margins. I'm sure you've seen it all, especially with that, with the massive agency. Whereas to operate a 3-person micro agency at like probably closer to 70% margin. Yeah. is a way easier life. That's what you're saying. Like you have the output of a 15-person agency. One, just like the tech today is so much better that you can have the ability to even build your own platform. But like we look at it just by the sheer numbers, where like we see agencies doing $500K a month at 20% margins. Well, that's the same net as an agency doing 125 a month at 70. I think it's a lot easier to run $125,000 a month business. There's so much fewer moving parts, fewer people involved, and the net is the same. Now, I guess if your goal is let's sell this business, having a business that produces $500,000 in cash every month is certainly it's a factor in the equation.
Can be. But what I'll say is, having gone through the like valuation process, the valuation metrics are shifting. So because AI and all these other components, like that headcount number makes a huge difference. And so while 500K in revenue is awesome and it shows a whole lot of work, on the flip side, your core valuation is built on your net income numbers, your EBITDA. Like, so at the end of the day, that's 70%. If it's the same as the 500K, you're going to get the same valuation as long as the 3 people or 2 people or whatever that are doing that revenue can be replaced. If they're irreplaceable, then that's an issue. But if you're saying, hey, we've got the systems, the technology, and the processes, and I'm going to show you by bringing in people that can do this, like if you can de-risk the business from a founder perspective, the second you can do that, the smaller revenue number is actually a better business in lots of situations. Because if you can keep scaling that, if a new owner comes in and is like, I'm going to go put, $500,000 in marketing towards this thing, well, all of a sudden you've got a business that with 10 people is going to be doing 25 to 30 people worth of work. And that margin scales beautifully in the process. So you can get some outsized valuations with these high margin businesses in today's environment if you can just prove that you aren't required to do the work and you aren't required to sell the work.
Yeah, this is the great conundrum right now is all these founders want to be in the work. Like you like being in the work right now, right? You and Sydney are in it. You're selling, we just said, like you're marketing it, you're selling it, you're delivering it. People don't really want to get out of the work because it's not what they don't want to become that traditional agency, right? Because then again, the org chart gets deeper, like the absolute profit goes down. And so it's fun is everyone's kind of stuck in the same. They're like, well, how do I build this thing in a way that I could potentially sell it while also not screwing myself over? Do you guys have have a plan to sell Schaefer eventually?
Yeah, I mean, it is an asset, right? You are building something. So I think we feel like we have a responsibility to make sure that we're in a position in the future to be able to do that. But we don't feel like we're in a rush today to go make that happen. And the reason why is there are lots of exits for founders. And I think that we think about exit always resulting in a sell. I know some businesses that it's just all about maximizing profits. And they're like, I'm going to go on a 7-year run. I'm going to extract as much as I can out of during this time, throw it in my savings accounts. And I'm going to also use the business to pay off vehicles and like manage a bunch of other expenses. I'm just going to do all the legal tax, things that help the business to really improve my financials. And then I'm just going to be comfortable as the business gracefully and slowly like withers. I don't need it to be this sellable asset because I'm actually going to do all of my asset extraction during these peak years. So there are lots of ways to kind of go about it. I also think if you have a micro agency, you can set it up in a way where you're like, cool, I am going to phase myself out at some point, and I'm going to sell my portion of the business to the person that replaces me. So it doesn't have to go I've sold to private equity and strategics and all these kind of things, but it also can be a dude, right? Like
It's just like a guy, yeah, someone who wants to do what you're doing.
Doctors and dentists, that's what they do all the time. They're literally buying out an individual partner and buying into a practice. And the partners usually own like the building that the company rents from, and that becomes a long-term asset so that the business isn't. And there's just some nice little ecosystems that they create where they have liquidity and options. And I think micro agencies can do the same if they take that perspective of, if I don't go sell this to another agency or some other thing and have to check off all their boxes, what are my options? And I think you have a lot.
I think there's way more than people think, right? The model that everyone thinks is just sell it to another agency or run it until I'm done.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of it. Amazing, dude. Seth, what is your motivation? Like why to do all of this and to keep things going? Like why is this work so meaningful to you? All of it.
Yeah.
Over these, all the.
I think from my perspective, like I can't get up every day and do anything unless I'm really passionate about it. Like I am driven by that kind of like thing. I've got to love it. I've got to believe in it. And so if you ask like, well, you sure have believed in a lot of things over the years.
Yeah, but you're like me. You could get addicted to anything probably and just be like, I gotta see this thing through.
It's about the opportunity. Like when I can catch a vision of what's possible, I just very much want to see it come to life. And I don't care if I'm always the person. Like I love just getting on like calls with founders and like having conversations and just giving away. Like here's an opportunity, because I keep a spreadsheet. Like I have about 70 opportunities on this sheet. And I'm just like, I just want to see these things happen. Because usually what motivates it for me is because consumers would benefit so much if things were better. Like if they were done a new way, a different way, new technology, better services, like if this person existed in the market, like those kind of things are super motivating. My personal mission, like what I kind of always go back to is like my massively transformative purpose is that I want to help the world feel at home. And for me, like that shows up in these consumer connections. Most of my work has always been consumer facing of some kinds. My customers are consumer brands, things like that. Because when you can help people connect with whatever that feeling is they have around home, like it means the world, right? And it means that they're having a really beautiful experience. You're not defining it for them. You're not telling them what home looks like, but you're connecting them with the resources, the people, and like the positive experiences that mean the most to them. And so that's kind of that like constant motivation is I want and have experienced it in my life. And I just believe like the crappy stuff out there that people do for work or the way they get treated by businesses and organizations and government, all this stuff, like not necessary. Like we should and can fix it.
You are really good at IDing like a problem worth solving. I think this is like my takeaway from hearing all of this is like, you can see it and you go, that's something worth going after. That's something worth exploring. That's the opportunity, right? It's the problem worth solving in a simple way. And it's like, well, this would make everyone's life a lot better. And hey, we can make some money along the way, but like, this is definitely something worth going. Looking back, what's something you would have done different?
So many things. What I will say is what I won't say is work less. So like, I do feel like people always have this backwards look and they're like, I wish I wasn't working as much. And I'm like, it's easier to say when you're on the other side of it, but it was necessary to get to where I am. Like, that's kind of how I think about it is like, I had to put a lot of years and a lot of hours to have the kind of experiences that I wanted. And so I won't kind of come in and say that, which is what I think most people always do is like, I wish I didn't. So, but I do think where I would shift is because I can see opportunity in so many places, focus is hard. And at different points in my career it was much more challenging. Like I was like the king of pivots and absolutely have had to learn to measure like how often that can happen and what partners and team members and like suppliers and vendors and like I can create more opportunity than any organization can handle. And I don't mean that as like a boast as much as just like I can see those and overwhelm all of us and kill momentum in the process. And so I've had to like create the list, right? Like have a place to be like, I need to ideate on this for a couple of days, document it. I build a lot of slide decks. Like that's my love language. So I build out the concepts and then I just need to like get it out of my brain so that I can stay focused on like, these are the opportunities in front of us. And that's been a really hard lesson. That's required a lot of difficult conversations over the years where I have burned myself and other people out.
I was gonna say, I'm sure young Seth, like an executive, has had to probably put the brakes on you a couple of times.
Yes. Yeah. And
for chasing shiny objects, what might seem like a shiny object to them. And you're like, no, this is the thing.
Yeah. And it's just like, cool, we don't have the resources. And that resource often is just attention. Like we don't have the ability to focus on it. And that's been a really important lesson is that perspective. And that's why we always kind of joke, John and Sydney, like I need a 2-to-1 ratio of like, they're very just like pragmatic and practical and like, you know, they just bring stuff down to earth kind of a deal. And they need me on the flip side to be like, hey, there's something here that we're missing. And yeah, it's been hard, but it's been every area of my life. My wife is not much different. So,
well, I think it has a lot to do with like you have high FITFO is the way that we describe it. It's like high figure it the fuck out. And sometimes that's what you need. I mean, we always joke, it's like, you don't have to be crazy to do this work, but it helps. Yeah. And this idea, I think it's just the fact that you can keep going is part of it. Like there is no finish line. So yeah. Seth, let's end here, man. What's next for you? What do you want to build with Schaefer that you haven't built yet? Like, what does the future of this look like?
I think really like we are still very much under the radar. So our business is largely grown with referrals and word of mouth. And over the last little bit, like it's been LinkedIn. So, but even then I'm like, we're not on almost anybody in our industry's radar. We've been very behind the scenes. So I think over the next year or two, a huge part of what we're trying to do is just get out into the food and beverage community, like stop hiding in the shadows and like, you know, doing the stuff that we're doing and go have a much more physical digital presence in the industry. And we're putting a lot of work behind that, which is uncomfortable because the three of us are all kind of introverts by nature. And so we're stepping out and being uncomfortable, but trying to just get to know the rest of the industry and use that as a point to do good.
I mean, I've seen some of the content you guys put out. You can sling some haymakers for sure.
Ever so.
I have no doubt that you guys are gonna pull this one off.
So, well, thanks. It's been fun. It's been really good.
Seth, this has been a blast, man. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story with me. I know more people feel seen because of it. So for that, man, I thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's been great.
What would be your last meal on earth, Seth?
I would put there, but I am like a huge fan of like steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. Like that's a go-to. But I would add like mac and cheese and like some of those. Last meal on earth, pretty simple for me. I am a big steak guy. Like I like comfort food from that perspective. Probably shouldn't admit it, but I have like 2 to 3 steaks a week at least. So I'm a guy with a meat subscription to a steak like house place in particular. So it would be an extra thick ribeye. And then I think from there, the question is like, what are the perfect sides? I am a like mac and cheese. Like if it's last on earth, I'm going to cut out a lot of the vegetables that normally I would put there. But I am like a huge fan of like steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. Like that's a go-to. But I would add like mac and cheese and like some of those like extra fatty good things.
Yes. I'm glad you said ribeye. It is the superior cut of steak.
It is. Yeah.
Do you ever do the Pittsburgh style?
I don't. Tell me.
Have you ever heard of this?
Tell me about the Pittsburgh style.
They ultra sear it on one side and it kind of like cooks through, and then they like lightly sear it on the other, but you get that like really crispy exterior on the steak that you know and love without it like without it overcooking. So it's just like a way of cooking. I think they basically cook it too much on or over on one side and then they do like a quick flip.
That's perfect. I have tested nearly everything. Grill, cast iron, reverse sear. I like
sous vide, the whole thing.
Yes, sous vide, and then pick one of those options, butter bath, like
I'm hanging with you, dude. I'm in. I love this. I also have the subscription to the meat box, and I don't do two to three steaks a week, but we're up there. Yeah. And I think you've got me beat on the count of steaks per week. No, I like that.
Ribeye is my number one. I love the functionality of filet. Like filet mignon is a great cut. In a lot of ways, it's more versatile, I think, than ribeyes. Like if I'm going to pick eat a steak, it's ribeye. If I'm going to like have steak in something else, it's filet.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. If we're going steak sandwich, maybe we'll slice down a filet, but eating a steak straight up, I'm with you. Cool. You're the first person to say steak, by the way, just so you know.
You're the first person that's getting it right.
I know. One guy said McDonald's, and I was like, I don't know what to do here. Last meal? Like, that's it? I mean, hey, you're a simple man with simple pleasures.
Let's end the podcast here.